Hi everyone, my name is Mallory. Today I am interviewing the Reverend Dr. Jonathan McPherson Sr., a noted civil rights pioneer, educator, and minister in Birmingham. Hello, Dr. McPherson.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fine. Could you tell us about what life was like in Birmingham before the civil rights movement?
Prior to the civil rights movement, for a black man, African American in Birmingham and Alabama, it was terrible. Birmingham and Alabama was the most segregated place in the world next to South Africa, where they practiced apartheid.
Tell us how you contributed to the civil rights movement in Birmingham.
You know, after the NAACP was outlawed in Alabama, Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth formed the Alabama Christian Movement for Human Rights. My mother, my father, and my uncle, we were all staunch supporters of Fred Shuttlesworth. We attended the movements every Monday night when they met at various churches across Birmingham. I also was on the faculty at Myers College, and we helped the Myers College students to lead what we call a selective buying campaign, because the state of Alabama outlawed boycott. They didn't want you to use that mechanism to redress your grievances. So Dr. Pitts, who was the president, he was an astute and a smart man. He said, well, don't call it a boycott. We call it a selective buying campaign. That is, teach black folks to teach their money to use some sense. Why spend $300 in this department store and they won't even allow you to spend 30 cents to purchase a hot dog? And so that selective buying campaign was very, very effective. We also assisted many of our people. We taught them how to pass the examination that was given by the Board of Registrars in order to become a registered voter. And also, after Fred Shuttlesworth went into federal court and they struck down the white only, prior to their going into federal court, only whites could take the civil service examinations for police patrolmen, for firemen, for deputy sheriff. And after it was struck down, I went down and took the examination, and I was the first African American to successfully pass that examination to become a police patrolman in the city of Birmingham.
That's great. Hey, what do you wish young people will remember about the events of 1963?
I would that they would remember the great sacrifice that African Americans paid. They were bitten by police dogs, high-powered hoses were spread, and some died during 1963 struggle. And we ought not ever forget the sacrifices that our people made. Young people need to be aware, and they should always remember. I think if they did, they would have a greater appreciation for what they enjoy now. It's just like a person with an automobile, a young person. You can give that person an automobile, or you can let him work and earn that automobile by the sweat of his brow. When you give it to him, he doesn't have quite the appreciation that he would when he works for it to earn it.
Are young people remembering?
Are they what now?
Are they remembering?
Remember?
Yeah, are they remembering the times of the civil rights movement?
I hope they will. One thing that we did in former years, I notice we're not doing it now. Now, SCLC, Southern Christian Leadership Conference, the organization that Dr. King formed, that Abraham Woods was the president until God called him home, and now his brother, Calvin Wallace Woods Sr., president of Southern Christian Leadership Conference. They would send some ambassadors, let's call them, persons who had a familiarity with the civil rights movement, some person who was a foot soldier during the civil rights movement. They would send them to the school system, various schools in Birmingham, and so that they could speak about the civil rights struggle during '63.
Do young people understand the significance of the movement?
Sad to say, many of them do not. And I don't fault the young people, it's the parents, mamas and daddies. They ought to teach them. They ought to remind them daily, very often, of the struggles of our people, the sacrifices, and so many of our people who met death in their attempt to gain freedom, justice, and equality. I remember I once served on the Western Mental Health Board, and there's a Caucasian who is the president. He retired from the school system over in Midfield, and he shared with us that he went into his classroom. This classroom was integrated. You had African Americans, you had some Caucasians, white and black. And he asked the class how many of them knew who Martin Luther King was. And sad to say, only one student, and believe it or not, that student was a white kid who knew Martin Luther King. The black kids didn't even know themselves.
All right. How was the Fourth Avenue district after 1963?
You know, that was a thriving business district for African Americans. It was just like went out in the rural areas when people work on the farms, and then on the weekends, everybody head downtown. Well, this is where the black business ownership was concentrated on the Fourth Avenue district. And sad to say now, but this is another casualty. I look at it as a casualty of this thing that we call integration. We just don't have the black-owned, black-operated businesses in areas like Fourth Avenue now since this 1963. I remember just in Fairfield here, for instance, up on this hill where I went to high school, we had several black businesses, pharmacies. We had grocery store owners and others. And now if you go up on that hill, none of that exists at all. But that means that we've got to put some emphasis now on black empowering our people from an economic standpoint.
I agree. How have the events made the city magical?
Well, you know, it's just like all over. Those events, look at, some people put it like this. When they look back and see how far we African Americans have come, they would say, well, we have come from cotton sacks to Cadillacs. We have come from Shoeshine Sam to the mayor of Birmingham. And not only the mayor of Birmingham, city council person, but all over the South, Alabama and Mississippi, they have more elected black public officials than any other state. Now, that's one thing that the civil rights movement did for us.
Well, that's great. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much. I certainly appreciate it. We encourage you now to stay in school, get all of the education that you possibly can. Two types of education now. When you go to Ramsey, you're getting what we call the secular education. Go on to get your high school degree, go on to college, go on to graduate school, your PhD. Martin Luther King had the highest degree that's offered by an American university. And we want to encourage our people to get as much education as you can. But we say to them one thing, my daughter and my son, while you're going to Auburn University, University of Alabama, Myers College, and UAB, go to that little Baptist church around the corner so that you can get an educated heart. Because not only do you need an educated head, but you need an educated heart. Now remember this, what they say about education. They say education is such a development of our faculties and powers that enables us to be masters wherever we are placed. Masters of ourselves and masters of our condition. And we need, incidentally, to know enough to know where we are and what we are there for. That's the sign of an educated man. God bless you in all of your endeavors.